Ayo, what's up, Vegas, and all of my fellow podcast family. I am here with Marcus Miller, brand strategist and founder of SM Consulting and Branding. I'm thankful to have this opportunity and to find out we are birthday twins. So I have to throw that out there.
Awesome. It feels like it was meant to be then.
Yeah, there's not many people I meet on the edge of Aquarius. Going into, I don't even know the other astrological sign.
It's funny. I had one girl, because she's an Aquarius too, and I was just like, hey, I'm Aquarius too. And she was just like, you're barely an Aquarius.
So some people take that really serious, and that's a way to connect with some people. So I always have to throw that out there because some people, they take it a little bit harder, and they're like, ooh, they find a lot more relevancy and introspection in it.
Absolutely.
I'm just like, hey, anything that can bring us a little bit closer to have a better conversation or connect on a friendship level.
Right. I wouldn't say I'm hardcore. I'm just like, a little lightweight. You know what I'm saying? I understand there's some value there, but I'm like, no, you're a Taurus, you're Aquarius. We can't talk, okay? We don't get along, okay?
Right before you, this last episode, I had a psychic on here, a celebrity psychic, and she was really into spirituality and astrology and not the biggest believer in it, but she did convince me in some ways that maybe even if it isn't happening, you can't really see people's perspective through their eyes. But even if there's a placebo effect to enhance people's ability to perceive things differently or help others, then I'm all for it.
I'm a firm believer, whether it gets into heavily in an astrology situation or just in general, I believe part of the life cycle, we're all connected in some sense or some fashion. So, back in the day, they didn't have, all these different other ways that we're connecting now. So it's some truth to it. It's like, okay, yeah, suns, moons, all that align this time. I wasn't really a big believer in it because my wife is like really on it. So she's like wore me down a little bit. So I was just like, oh, okay, maybe a little truth to it. And then she was like, well, that's because I would do something and she'll be like, that's because you're an Aquarius. And I was just like, what does that mean? So I looked it up. I was like, okay, let me look at what the sign is. I was like, yeah, I kind of do that. Yeah. So it has some truth to it.
It does. If you think about it too, people who relate to astrology the most, it's a big branding technique for a lot of people. That's a lot of tribalism and culturalism, which I'm sure that's all connected in some way, how you want to represent yourself, but also how you want to represent each other.
Correct. Yeah.
So let's start this way back. Let's build some context before we get into some content. Tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where'd you grow up? And more specifically in high school, what was your mindset in high school and what kind of things were you involved with?
Oh, wow. You're digging in the crates right now.
Yeah. Hey, context before content. I love it.
I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri. I've been in Vegas roughly 16, 17 years. I basically was one of 5 siblings of a single mother. Was raised specifically inner city. All of the fun stuff that brings. So from there, I have 3 sisters and one younger brother. For me, I went to a performing arts school. A school named Paseo, and my major was visual arts. So I did a lot of graphic design, ceramics, and things like that. Anything you can pretty much see is pretty much what we kind of studied. That kind of transcended into finishing high school and then not knowing what the fuck I wanted to do.
Hey, at least you got that. At least you got ahead of the game where most people now, they go into college and then 5 years later, then they're like, shit, I don't know what to do.
That's the epiphany. Like, I guess I should learn to do something. Like, I did that. I did that a little bit in college, but I guess by the time I actually got to college, because when I left high school and a year after that, I came to Vegas. And then I went to college maybe after about 4 years of being in Vegas. I went to St. San for a little bit, and then I went to UNLV. And they're like, this shit's not for me. But I learned a lot of good things in college. I think one of my best favorite classes was anthropology.
Okay.
Where we learn other people's culture from their perspective, not U.S. perspective, because typically it's like, that's where I really dawned on me that other countries have a reason to be pissed off at America because like we've basically went over there, bullied their country, took all that shit and said, fuck it.
Yeah.
Take all that shit and like, okay, and then we'll sit over here with our hands like, what are you mad about? Like,
American history, when you're in high school and you take U.S. history or U.S. government, that kind of stuff isn't written into those books. No, it's funny how it's favorable.
It's really favorable to, I mean, think about it. Even when they speak about Thanksgiving, it just passed. Like, it's always sugar coated. It's always like, ooh, be thankful. And meanwhile, the indigenous people is just like, yo, like, you're going to celebrate this? Like, so I don't know. American culture has always kind of been that way where they have did something really bad and then wrote it in a way where, not so bad.
Yeah, that's just how American history is. It makes me curious on when you go to other countries, how their history books are written, if they're favorable towards them or if they do paint out America to be this evil empire of democracy, even though we are founded on good credentials and good ideals. Over time, especially once you start getting into the corporatization of America and corruption, that's when things begin to start falling apart into today's age.
You're really juicy with those topics, though, and those are the topics a lot of corporate people or a lot of politicians tend to stay away from because obviously it's controversial. But on Netflix, there's a documentary series called Dirty Money.
Ooh, yes, I love it.
Like I'm waiting for them to put out new ones. I'm like, man, this is good shit. Like,
it really makes you wonder, like, what goes on behind the scenes because you would think people usually have good intentions. I think the majority of people in life have good intentions for whatever they do, whether they started, in a lower economic area, rise up and actually make a decent amount of money and then they can provide for their families. But then like, where does that turn where they end up, I don't know, getting in bed with the wrong politicians or just going down the wrong path where then they become ostracized by society because of something they did where they gentrified some community or...
and then it brings to the question I always think, which is, can you get to multi-millionaire, billionaire status without stepping on somebody?
That is a real good question.
Like how? Like, because like that far, okay, a couple steps or like, okay, you're working a 9-to-5 job and you're doing okay for your family. And then the next person, okay, they're a millionaire, they're some kind of actor or entertainer or whatever. So they make a couple $1 million a year and they live in a better place or whatever. But to multi-millionaire status, I don't know. Like you're basically accumulating enough wealth for an entire GOP, like an entire country. You have enough money for an entire country. Like I it's really debatable if that's possible without doing damage to somebody or something.
It's true. You see that time and time again, more specifically with the Snap billionaires, Facebook and Amazon and Netflix and Google.
Oh, did you see that documentary with Facebook?
Yeah.
With Frontline and Facebook?
Mm-hmm.
Frontline, that was a really good segment with Frontline, part 1 and 2. And I mean, they said it, they wrapped it up pretty good. I mean, their slogan in the beginning was "Move fast, break things." Like,
that's literally the motto of the majority of Silicon Valley now.
Of course.
Move fast, break things, get acquired, and then don't have to deal with any of the repercussions.
And the funny thing is that a lot of those VC companies and a lot of those tech companies, they don't really have a business model to make money. Their whole business model is around raising. That's it. Mm-hmm. And once they raise and spend, they raise more to spend. So that they are not actually selling anything to the general public. So like they get a crazy evaluation based off the last money they raise, and then it just builds and snowballs from there. But they've not Facebook didn't actually have a business model until 7 years after it was created. They had to raise over a stupid amount of millions of dollars before then just to keep operations going. And they didn't even know how to make $1.
I believe they didn't even bring in the ad model until they were already a public company.
Oh yeah, well, it was right before they went public because they wanted to go public. They looked up and say, "Hey, we don't even have anything that the shareholders would find valuable." So it was like, okay. So then they hired the chick from Google that did the ad structure over there, brought her over, and like, "Hey, fix this. We about to go public. Fix this." And then she came in and was like, "Hey, you got data, but advertisers don't care about the last professor that you went to or anything college related. That's not good information for advertisers." So there's like, okay, we got to change this whole thing. That's why they partnered with Cambridge Analytica and other mining companies to bring that data. Because think about it. Yeah, they got into a lot of flack with that, but if they wouldn't have did that, they wouldn't have been successful as they are.
Yeah, that was a huge fallout. It's strange. The conception of Facebook. It started off as a harmless college, dorm room. What was it? It was like a hot or not kind of swiping platform, and now it's this like Goliath over I looked the other day. It was like 2.8 billion active users on it, but it has such a negative connotation and stigma that surrounds it universally. But over time and time again, when I look on YouTube and look at a lot of these advertiser entrepreneurs, they always say the best way to advertise is through Facebook, even though it has this negative brand to it. Why do you think that is?
It depends on who's speaking, or is it advocators for Facebook that are speaking, or is it just the marketing industry themselves?
It's usually the marketers that are advocating for it.
Facebook has very good marketing ability far as tracking your consumer in a matrix that otherwise would be difficult to do. Like, for example, you buy a $5,000 billboard per month to put it on the corner here. I might pass by that sign for 2 years before I get into a fender bender of a personal injury attorney, and then I might call them. So it's difficult for me to track how effective that is outside of just a general presence that it's visible. Versus Facebook, where you show people and they give you analytics to who's seen it based off the markers that they've already created. So I can get very, very micro targeted with who's seeing it and then how they're seeing it and how they're responding to it. So it has very niche ability in order to track who you're looking for. The problem there is that it's a lot of shady shit going on behind the scenes that they don't tell you.
I would assume there's probably some sort of inflated stats. I know that's something that's crippled not just social media platforms, but even financial industries as well, that they inflate the numbers because it's really hard to track because it's a centralized system.
Well, at the end of the day, they control the data.
Exactly.
So there's no government regulation of integrity of the data. Now the government can come in and say, hey, this looks deceptive or fraudulent. Let me try to understand this. But you got to realize, even when they did the congressional meeting with Mark Zuckerberg and they were sitting down, they didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about. So tech is so far advanced ahead of legislation that they can't even keep up, which is why they can't even put their arms around the massive Facebook, considering that they don't even necessarily know how to do that. They're not savvy enough to know exactly how to do that. They know in general, but they don't know exactly because they're just too far ahead, which is why they're giving the CEO of Facebook, Google, Yahoo, like all of these major tech companies, CEOs, they're bringing them all in order to interview them, in order to see like, hey, we need to keep an eye on these guys because they got too much power.
Yeah, they have basically a monopoly.
For sure.
Facebook has it over the social media domain, and Google has it over the whole internet analytical space. And so when you saw them come in, I think AOC was actually one of the few politicians that actually had some knowledge and had the ability to grill them in specific areas to where Zuckerberg couldn't even respond.
Right. Or they went with the political response. Oh, I am not aware. Let me check into that. The usual political responses. They know what they're doing and they know how it was set up. Now, all of them do a little bit of the inflation. Now, specifically Facebook. Their inflation comes from a number of different ways. So one, you show these people and people see it and you can get sales out of it and it can produce real results if set up correctly. Here's the kicker though. There isn't no tutorial to show you how to set that up correctly. So while you're learning, you're spending money.
And you're wasting it.
So they're taking all the money while you're learning on the job, whether you get results or not. All they're going to say is, hey, we gave you an opportunity to do it. Here you go. So that's kind of a money pit, especially if you're trying to understand what's really going on or what things work. Because there's over 12 different ways to set up a Facebook ads. I can have it download something, traffic to the website, more views, more comments, whatever. But it really based on what you're looking for. If you need more sales to your website, you probably don't care too much about post engagement. So you can spend money on post engagement, but it isn't going to get people to the website. So all of that is the gray area that they make a good amount of money off of. The other side of that is, okay, they have the boosted post side. You go on your Facebook page, and anytime you post something, right under it says boost posts or promote posts or whatever it is. With that boosted post is the best way to lose money. Because with that boosted post, once you click on it, it says, hey, people 18 to 35 in Vegas, interested in podcasts, interested in music, blah, 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 blah. And you pick all these predetermined categories to tell Facebook who to show that to. However, the real marketers don't fuck with this side of it. This is the waste money side. The reason why is because going through Business Manager, which is a whole separate website, the capability of using those ads is drastically different than that boosted post side. Like, for example, if I've already been doing business for a while and I got an email list, I got like 5,000 people on email list. On that boosted post side, I can't use that. Like those emails, I have no place to use that. On the Business Manager side, I can upload all 5,000 emails directly to Facebook. Facebook will track and see who those people are with their account, and they'll do an exact match. It'll say, uploaded 5,000, we match 5,000. And now when you run a piece of an ad or a video, you can run it right to the news feed of those 5,000 and you're not guessing.
Holy shit.
So it's a whole nother world with the Business Manager side. And that's where a lot of the seasoned marketers will use it typically. Now, we have another issue with Facebook and Facebook ads, even though it can produce. The problem there is that they have been known to lie about results. And I had this conversation with the other podcast I was on where I asked them, are you at a point dealing with Facebook that you question Facebook? And it was like, no, you don't question Facebook. You don't need to do that. I was like, well, yeah, you need to. It was like, well, why is that? You didn't set it up right, so that's why you're not getting results. According to Facebook, I'm getting results. According to Facebook, it's doing well. But let's say I set it up to get traffic to my website. Facebook shows me I got 5,000 people that clicked on that ad. Clicks, not looked, not like, clicked through to the website. I get to my analytics on my website and it says, oh, you only got 2,000 people that clicked on it. So why is my website analytics drastically different than my Facebook analytics, drastically different than the Google analytics? So the only reason or possible conclusion is Facebook is lying. But once again, they own the data.
You'd have to follow the old popular Russian motto, which is don't trust, verify. but you can't verify Facebook because it's a centralized backend
But
system.
all of them are kind of that same way now. I mean, even recently, I think 7 months ago, Google did something just as shady where they changed the amount of reach you can get on any particular piece of content. So let's say you're pushing a piece of content, a podcast video, and you spend $100,000 on this being shown. Now, with that $100,000, it used to be you would get search results for at least 98% of that 100,000 people. So let's say that $100,000 let you see 5 million people. 98% of that 5 million people would see that. Now Google comes out and says, hey, we're only going to show 72%.
And they could just do that.
They can just do it. There's nothing stopping them. So that means you can spend the same $100,000 and only reach 72% of that 5 million. And it's just done. That's just what they decided to do.
Yeah, that's probably why they want to break them up.
I mean, it's too big. I mean, where else are you going to go? It's fucking Google. And Google now owns YouTube. So what are you going to do?
Yeah, they own the #1 and #2 search engine.
That's what I'm saying.
World.
What are you going to do?
It's a pain. As far as in terms of Facebook, and now that their advertisement model is so far advanced, do you think there's like a minimum dollar entry barrier to actually get some sort of tangible results?
Yeah. Everything with Facebook, Instagram, all of them are moving towards a pay-to-play structure. It used to be organic, which is pretty much the people you can reach without paying ads. Used to be quite useful, but these days they're killing off your organic in order to get priority to ads. Because here's the game: the biggest gap they can put in between you and who you want to reach, that's their ad money. So they have a vested interest to making sure you can reach the people you want to reach without them.
Yeah, so basically you're banking on people scrolling for a long enough time, because if they're putting an ad between every 2 posts, 2 organic, 1 advertisement, people are only going to sit there and scroll for so long, so you're not reaching as many people.
Well, that could be a role, but it's more sinister than that, because they're actually slowing down your organic reach. So let's say you got 5,000 people on your Facebook page or your Instagram page. It used to be 5,000 people see that, whatever you post. Now they're only showing about 30% of that. So on Facebook, you got a fan page, they only show 3 to 5% of the people that like your page. So if you got 1 million people that like the page, to say, hey, when you post, I want to see what you post. They only show 3 to 5% of those people.
Oh, that is terrible engagement numbers.
That's what terrible. So it's not even about the post likes or the amount of likes on the page. It used to mean a lot, but these days it only shows 3 to 5%. And then they have this feature now, even on the boosted post side, where it says show people that like the page and their friends. So they created a problem for you because you can't reach all the people that like the page. And then they gave you an ad solution to show the people that like the page and their friends if you kick us some money with some ads.
It is sinister. Create the problem, offer a terrible solution.
Well, they
terrible in terms of your dollars.
Yeah, they make stupid amount of money off of ads because it's just ridiculous. Like, so with their ads, with the Cambridge Analytica thing, I think they got a $5 billion fine, like the most of any U.S. company, $5 billion. They laughed that shit off, like, here, take an extra one. Here, get out here. Like they make almost $15 billion in ads a year.
It's fucking insane. It's literally just like the public companies or the gold companies or the financial regulators or financial companies who go, JP Morgan specifically, they just had to pay a large $2 billion fine for gold insider trading, and they literally made it back in a month.
Yeah,
like just off of that, and they probably made much more money because of that.
It's a slap on the wrist.
It's the same idea, but now it's transitioning down into the social media world.
Absolutely, because essentially these tech companies, even though it started from a social media platform, it's now big business, just like a JP Morgan. So the structure builds up the same on the corporate side as it does any other company. So now you have all these different layers where, especially you seen a documentary with Frontline where, they're being used to influence fucking governments and take down fucking different political figures.
Small countries.
Right. Like before, social media never had that kind of power to even be considered able to do something like that. But now this is where he is, but they're still banking off the clause like, hey, we're just a platform. We don't control anything or the opinion of people on it. And they've been banking on that clause on a federal level for them to not have the liability of what that can do. But now Congress is like, yo, that's not good enough anymore. Like you're too big now. Like you can't have your site overthrow a whole country and then sit back talking about, oh yeah, that's just their opinion. You need some kind of system in place to prohibit this. And that's why they started getting extra critical with political ads and things like that. It's extra approval processes and things like that in order to try to slow that down, mostly because they got sued where they try to implement some of that, but it's still really not enough.
So Facebook owns Instagram.
Yes.
Does this type of sinister action translate down to Instagram as well?
Yeah.
As far as your organic reach and the advertisement models?
So Facebook side is the worst because they the one that started the paid ad structure. Now, Instagram was a different company prior to, so the previous owners prioritized the user experience. It's like, hey, we just want people to stay on the site longer, enjoy themselves, things like that. They wasn't mostly focused on a lot of the ads. Now, when Facebook bought Instagram, they was like, hey, we leaving a lot of money on the table here. We need as much money as we get from Facebook side as from Instagram side. We need to figure out what we're doing. Because before Facebook took over, they used to have something what they call automation. Automation is software system developed by hackers and programmers where it syncs up your Instagram account and it allows you to do daily activity on your behalf. So let's say I log in with my username with this software and it'll start doing things as if it's me.
It's like a bot network.
Yeah, so it's like a bot network, but the bot is doing actions for you. So like I would normally go in there and like so many people, comment on so many people, watch so many views of their stories and things like that. But this bot software did that for you. So you would just come back to your page and just see people returning that support, but the bot is doing that outreach for you. So a lot of times for a good 5 years or so, these softwares was a very organic way for a lot of accounts to grow. And obviously, I think it was like $60 a month or something like that, where you can just have that just going nonstop all day for you. So it was really good. Now, Facebook came in, was like, hey, yeah, so all that money is going to these softwares. We need that on our site. So as of June 2019, they did a whole blitz on that back end. It's people that run social media as hackers and programmers. That's it. So what we see is nothing. The real magic is hackers and programmers. Because on the Facebook side, they'll actually work for the company. They have hackathons. That all they do is work with code or how they can modify things, change things, make the user experience.
They have the best team.
Yeah, the best teams of hackers to do this. Now, on the opposite side, they have hackers in what they call the black hat market. The black hat market is, we ain't trying to pay for ads, but we know how to get through the system in order to make it worth our while. So my primary concern of what I'm thinking is the creators and hackers of back in the day with Facebook is the same people that got together, created the platform, but when they decided to go corporate, they kicked out all the other bad hackers, and then those guys know how to get in the system because they helped create it. So now you got the war between the back end and the front end all day long, and that's how it's kind of going, where their systems will kick them out, and they got a whole wall of servers dedicated to getting back in. Because they've made the fake like industry made over $90 million last year. Just selling likes, selling views, selling comments. And
they have the algorithm, I know, detects that kind of stuff, and it's supposed to hinder your profile, correct?
Yeah.
Or they keep finding ways around it?
That's a joke. That's a joke. That's only smoke and mirrors just to give them, because think about it, they got to do stuff like that in order to show the shareholders that they got it under control. They don't have it under control. Back 4 or 5 years ago when they did a purge, and they got a lot of real fake followers and things like that, even from favorite celebrities and all that, lost millions and millions of followers. How do you still have millions more?
It's true.
They will never have it under control because, like I said, back in the day when they all created this, I feel that they inflated the numbers in order to get the ball rolling. And then did away with that and pretend like it's all legitimate. Like the Secretary of the State of Defense for the U.S. government, they had a Facebook page. They spent over, I think, $300,000 on their Facebook page. So the Attorney General came in. He was like, you know what? Where the hell is all this money going? Like, what do we have to show for this $300,000? With that, they go through the page, they analyze everything, and they didn't buy it from the third-party people, the black hat in the background with the fake stuff. They did all ads directly through Facebook. Tell me why they still had over 40% fake accounts.
So Facebook might be having their own team as well.
If you have 40% of fake accounts and I pay you directly,
that's coming from somewhere.
So that being said is, how solid is the data that you're charging people for? Then we have a whole nother conversation. But they'll never go with that train of thought because that deflates their value. So they do stuff like this of, we'll do a purge here. We'll, change the algorithm here. We'll shut out a couple people with
basically
political
a
ads.
PR move.
It's all PR move. It's all smoke and mirrors because I believe their site itself is still sitting on over 25% fake.
I could see that. Is there ever a time in terms of branding or growing a business where it's acceptable to buy fake followers or likes for your videos?
Only if you really know what you're doing. So, and when I have consulting meetings with people, I try to kind of see where they at. Because typically, if you're a business owner, obviously you want to bring awareness to your company, your product, your good, your service, and you don't necessarily want to be buried with all the logistics on the side. You just want to know how to get the results from it. So when they come in and say, okay, I want to make a social media page, and then I just want to show them my audience and show them whatever I want them to know about the business. That's not the way it works on social media. Typically, people do not come to social media to get sold. So the moment it feels like an advertising, you lose them. So millions of dollars of things are worth of sold on social media, but it's packaged in a way where it does not feel like an advertising.
It has to be authentic.
It has to be authentic or set in. It's more experience-based marketing, kind of like Sprite or Nike. They don't say, hey, I got this just in, 2-for-1 special, come in right now and buy it now. They don't do stuff like that. What they do is they have you put on that Nike shoe and run a marathon and barely pass out on the way to the finish line. It's experience-based. But at the end of that, you get some kind of value of connected to that brand, and that's what all kind of brands are all built around. So back to your initial question of, is there a time where the fake stuff matters? I would say right now on Instagram, you cannot win organically. You can't. It's just no way.
It's too far ahead in the game.
It's too far ahead of prioritizing ads and then the site working against them because they want you to do the ads. And then they're not showing all the people that already follow you anyway. So if I just started an account today and I got 100 followers, if you have a really, really good video and it's put together well, you spent $10,000 in this video, you got drone footage, all kinds of bells and whistles. Me as a new person, I might like that video, I might comment on that video, but I'm not about to be follower 101.
Yeah,
so it's a little bit of a vanity kind of perception with how they view pages specifically on Instagram. It's smoke and mirrors these days. So I would say that's more of the arena where you can kind of strategically place those kind of things. But once again, you got to know how that's going to affect your page and then how you're keeping that separate from the people you know that are authentically following you as well. So you got to kind of be critical on the back end and kind of know how they use. For example, I've tried everything. That's how I know it works. I didn't pick up Ty Lopez's course and say, hey, I'm a fucking guru. Like, I actually learned by building my page, and I looked up and was like, you know what? How the fuck are they getting their shit ahead of mine? Clearly it ain't about talent because garbage get ahead. So I went on a journey of about 2 years digging behind the scenes in hacker forums, black hat forum, all that to try to figure out why this was happening. And then that's when I came up and learned what I learned and then start sharing it with other people. And here I am.
Yeah. So if you're a beginner or if you're just starting an account, if you're in a 100-meter race, you're basically starting at the 200-meter mark. You're so far behind.
Yeah, you're so far
it's impossible to catch up.
Yeah. You figure the life cycle of any social media platform. So you start in this is just for college kids and it's just for young kids, and then the adults jump on it for a little bit and they're like, oh yeah, this is fun, and then you got a couple different generations on it, and then the ads come in, the businesses come in, it matures up to big business, and now they're only concerned with the big business. They're not concerned about the user anymore because they already got the numbers, and now the whole thing is shifted, and you coming in as a new guy trying to figure out how you compete with the big boys. The difference is they got $1 million worth of a budget and a whole department dedicated to this, and you're doing this 1 hour a week on your off day trying to figure out how you can get yourself ahead of fucking Walmart. Yeah. It's just a different platform. It's a different game. It's too much big money in it now.
Yeah, Instagram's an interesting model. I was never a big fan of Instagram. I'm personally a Twitter guy.
Okay.
I like the ability to opt out of the algorithm, which Twitter provides that. I believe LinkedIn also provides that as well. You can't do that in Instagram or Facebook.
Not an option.
So it leads me to believe that Twitter is a little bit more authentic. I know there's bots that riddle and fake accounts that riddle riddle everything. But when it comes to Instagram, the popularity it doesn't compete to anything else. Like, it's so popular across all the cultures, all age groups. It's most relevant, and now you see it's starting to replicate some of the TikTok features as well.
Yeah, well, that's what they did. And actually, I think it was Instagram. I think the Congress was grilling them about Instagram, and they were just like, because back in the day before they had stories, they tried to acquire Snapchat. Snapchat was like, nah, I'm good. And they ended up with stories. So Congress is like, so did you go to the executives of Snapchat and try to acquire them? And when they declined, did you just make something similar to their product? Like, and it was just like, no, well, we already been kind of working with some research on our own thing, blah, blah, blah. Nah, they ripped them off. Yeah. It's like, oh, you want to sell? Okay, we got that. And it ended up 10 times better because it's like, you basically put that feature into already an existing platform that has other things going too.
Yeah,
so it's not like the only thing, it's all these other things on top of that. So like they knew exactly what they were doing, and they do that quite a bit. They're basically tech bullies.
Yeah, the thing with tech, it's tough because I tried to go down the tech road before with the different companies. That you can't patent a tech. You can't patent the idea of having a store. You can only patent the template that surrounds it.
Yeah.
So it's easy to come in and rip people off. You just have to have a better audience and a better platform to do it, to be able to rip that kind of audience away like they did from Snapchat.
Right. I mean, essentially the only proprietary part of it is the tech and the code. Like if you tailor the code and then got that science, you patented that, but just the concept, like there's tons of concepts that don't really mean much. So Instagram is a big popularity contest. Here's where we are with Instagram.
That's how I feel when I'm on it.
It's extremely. Like, here's where we are with Instagram. The image of popularity is worth more than the reality of popularity. And what I mean by that, in reality, you might got 10,000 fake fucking followers, but I convinced 1,000 real people that first 10,000 was real. No matter what I think about your strategy, you just became real.
Yep, there's a psychological aspect to that. Even if you go to somebody's page and you see 100,000 followers and you probably presume that half of them are fake, you're still more likely to follow it than if it was just a number of 50,000 of all authentic.
Right, hearing what you're saying, because most people, they only see the face value of what they see and then judge your credibility based off of that. So you don't even get a chance to display your content in a way that's receptive to them if they don't even get past the numbers. Like, they'll look at the page like, okay, you got 10,000 followers. Okay, you seem like somebody. Okay, and then go down to the post. Like, okay, it's a good video. Interesting. And then you get them from there. But if they don't get past the follower numbers, you get to their page, you got one follower. It's like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I don't need to hear anything else you said. Like, so it's the image. The image is worth more than. And it's not just smaller pages. I encourage a lot of my clients where I would say, hey, you think this real fake thing is something? Okay, go to Kevin Hart's page, his verified page. I think he had like 100 million followers or whatever. It's like, okay, that's a lot, but that's Kevin Hart. It's like, okay, that sounds about right. But nobody actually goes in and look at what that 100,000 followers look like. I spend 15 hours a day, days on end, years on end, analyzing exactly what's going on in the trends from the top to the bottom. So I go into his 100,000 followers and I can scroll maybe a couple seconds before I see a blank profile. One follower following two people, following 500 people, like, and it's just blank. Next page, go back out, go back to that 100 million followers, go back down, blank profile, blank profile, blank profile. So let's ask a critical question here. If the biggest players in the game are using this back end method, what is the small guy supposed to do? They don't even make money from this. It's all relevance for them. So it's just so many more layers than what people see. So when someone comes to me and say, I got 100,000 followers on this, that don't mean nothing in my world. That means actually less than nothing.
What's more important, the engagement?
The engagement plays a big part. If you can, so you'll see people on social media, or especially specifically Instagram, they'll have 100,000 followers and then they get like 100 likes. That doesn't look good.
It looks terrible.
It looks terrible, right? So typically those that are smart, they balance out their numbers with their engagement with their followers. There's a whole back-end structure that allows them to do that. And then they use engagement groups and things like that in order to help with their comments. The big boys are dealing with the same issue as the smaller accounts. The difference is that they got resources to work around it. You don't.
Yeah, I know. I've heard such a bad rap around engagement groups. I know people on the internet say that it fucks with the algorithm. Instagrams came out and said that they try to downplay it and the algorithm can detect it. Does it really? I don't know. I've taken an Instagram course through somebody else.
I'm curious on that. What'd you learn?
I learned that they seem to be pretty successful. A bunch of these people through this program were building their followers and they were building their credentials, but they were all commenting on each other's profiles, and they were getting 100 or 200 comments in the matter of an hour. But now having this conversation makes me think, are all of their followers actually real? Because some of these guys had 100,000, 200,000 followers on top of getting all of these comments. So there's the comment game, there's the like game, there's the follower game. I'm sure there's multiple other games that surround this playing field as well.
Yes, and that's the logistics or the resources that the big boys use, because they got 100,000 followers, but once again, they're prioritizing ads, so all of their followers are not seeing all their things. So they are looking for engagement groups and likes and things like that in order to circumvent that. Now, with that, the engagement groups can play a role, but here's the problem with that, because first of all, we got to figure out if you even want to consider that. Once you made the decision, okay, let me consider that, let me see the value there, then that has to open up to a lot more layers, which is all engagement groups are not created equal. And 9 times out of 10, most engagement groups is invite-only structure. You got to have an invite codes. A lot of them is on Telegram. Some of it is through DM groups. So it's a lot of different variations of that. Now, your favorite celebrity have what they call a verified engagement group. A verified engagement group is a list of typically a DM group of only verified accounts, blue check accounts, and they all trade engagement on the other accounts. So therefore, it looks better when other big trusted accounts are interacting with each other. That gives them more priority with the algorithm.
Those comments always show up when you're scrolling through someone. It always shows the verified name on the comments.
Right. So that helps them far as presentation, obviously, but also with the algorithms. Large other big account trusted accounts are interacting with each other, it automatically gives you a little extra boost through the algorithms. So that's why they do it. Now, to get in a verified engagement group and you not being verified, that's a whole nother thing. If you think the regular engagement groups are tougher to get in, those are even more so because they kind of keep to themselves. But I'm a part of all of them, so I know exactly how they work and things like that. And the people I've seen in it, very notable.
You mentioned earlier that you've been doing this now for about 2 or 3 years, where you actually decided to fully dive into the back end.
Yeah.
What was the first piece of information that led you on to this epic journey of all of the back end criteria and I guess things that are happening?
I guess I didn't even tell you that the backstory. So I started my Instagram not to do anything marketing related. I was just a fat dude trying to lose weight. And I was tracking my fitness progress like millions of other people. And then about a year or so in, I was like, you know what? I'm spending a lot of time on making these videos and responding to people. Let me see what I can turn this into. I mean, other people were sipping lattes off the fucking coast and shit. Let me see what I can do. You know what I'm saying? So once I made that mental shift, I was like, okay, how can I get ahead on this site like everybody else. Because clearly, as we said, it wasn't about talent, because garbage gets ahead. You get a preteen girl looking at the camera, don't even like she won't even fucking be on camera. You got a dude flipping over a car, pulling a diesel, get only 100 views, and a girl that don't look like she don't want to be on camera is like 10,000 views. It's like, well, something is fucking off with the way this is structured. So that's the 2 or 3 years digging behind the scenes to understand why that was happening. And once I learned, I started sharing it with other people, and that's what kind of led me into marketing. But it all stemmed from me wanting to get my voice out there and figuring out what these other people know that I don't know. And then from there, and I always get like a little sense of like cringe when people say they took a course, or because they offer stuff like this at the university and things like that. Now, I always and I've had other interns where they'll say, "Yeah, I took a social media course," and my next immediate question is, "What did they learn? What did you learn?" Because here's the game with that. They're going to say you the course because obviously they want to make curriculum money. But here's the thing. The moment you get out of school, what you learn is now obsolete. This is social media marketing is a living organism. It continues to change and evolve, new features, new settings, new sites. Like it always changes. So whatever you learned,
it's obsolete.
It's obsolete. Like this is a moving field. So you always got to be in student mode. It's like, oh, that was working last week. This week, it's a whole new game.
Do you think there should be as much emphasis on the algorithm update as people always claim it out to be? Once that happens, I see people making hundreds of different posts across all the different platforms on how everyone's followers are going to drop and how you have to shift your content, and maybe it's not carousels anymore and now it's reels, and then once reels, then it's going to be guides and so on and so forth.
Let's look at the business of that. Certain people's business models is just to keep you up on updates. It feeds their YouTube views. It feeds their new posts on Instagram because you're curious. It's all from my side, and kind of being on this side of the inside and kind of looking at the game of what people are seeing, look in this direction. I'm looking at that like they're just trying to sell more ebooks, seminars, trying to have you tune in more, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really fucking matter. Organic viewership and reach on all platforms is going down and will continue going down. So that's not really a new mystery there. Now, it might be a new method of how that's being delivered, but that's kind of irrelevant to the overall statement of the fact that it's all going down because they want more ad money. So I think a lot of that is propaganda. And holds very little value. Now, you can adjust some things. You'd be like, oh, okay, well, due to new algorithm, maybe I need to do more of my stories. You know, maybe I need to do more with interacting with people in the comments. You know, you can make little adjustments like that. But as far as like, you know, drop what you're doing and let me dig in, this is like life or death, I wouldn't, nah.
Yeah, I see that. They're like, I just tested it 400 times over the last 24 hours to see what the difference is, and I came to these different conclusions.
Yeah, because the big boys don't worry about that.
Yeah,
because the big boys, and it's funny because I've managed big accounts, of verified accounts, large, notable accounts, and I know that the numbers of what you're seeing on the outside of their profile is not what it is on the inside.
It's hollowed.
It's hollowed, and it's not even going to be exactly what you're looking for. And not only that, even if it was, it has little real. First of all, followers doesn't mean engagement, as we know. Now, the engagement, everybody tends to go, I want to go viral, which I always have an interesting perspective on that, because I would say after that, why? They would say, oh, well, if I go viral, then, you know, I'll get more followers, I get more people to pay attention, blah, blah, blah. You know, and I tested this theory with some people, and I kind of looked at, you know, different trends. And back in the day when Drake had that whole Kiki challenge crap and whatever.
Where everyone's getting out of the car.
Right. Yeah, they get out of the car, doing a little whatever. So I seen a chick on her page. She normally got like a couple thousand followers. She normally averages a couple hundred views or likes. And she did this little Kiki challenge. Now, her post on this Kiki challenge, it was her and like two other flight attendants, and they were like dancing in the aisles or whatever. It was a cute little video, whatever. And, you know, it had like 400,000 views, like 10,000 comments, like 1,000, like all kinds of crazy engagement. The definition of what would be viral. The next post, she went right back to her normal couple hundred views and couple hundred likes. Her follows didn't really go up tremendously, maybe a handful of more followers, and she went back to the job she hated the next day. Okay, so back to what I ask people when they say they want to go viral. Why? Why? What does that get you? Now, you go viral on YouTube, yeah, you can get paid. Go for it. But viral on the rest of these sites don't mean nothing.
Yeah, it seems that you just go back to the status quo before. So it's more important to, and we'll start diving into SM consulting and branding. Is that if you do go viral, people need to see what you represent, what's your establishment.
Correct.
And that's where I see the importance of branding, because when you're a small account, I even see some people that have 400 followers, but then they'll get 200 likes on a picture, which means that their personality, their image, their brand, or whatever it is, has a strong presence to their followers. So,
yeah. And then part of that too is, like, for example, on Facebook, you know, I've seen even the celebrities, they'll have like 1 million people that like the page. Like I said, they only show 35% of the people. So when they post, they only see it in like a handful of likes and engagement and things like that. Now, Facebook intentionally set it up that the engagement is an a la carte structure than the follows to the page. So that being said is, if you don't keep paying them for the engagements every single post, it's not going to balance out even going through Facebook. So it's just like a whole different game.
So how do you build a strong brand? Let's say I approach you and I want to build a personal brand, not a business, but a personal brand. Okay. What is the consultation to, I guess, customer acquisition process and like the recommendations? Well,
for me personally, I don't do customer acquisition. If you notice on my page, I don't have one video where I say hire me. Or go to my website, the 2-for-1 specials. Everything is 90% branding. They just see me moving in meetings, and then they'll just DM me and come and play. I typically work in, everything for me is social media and word of mouth only. And I typically wanted to be in that niche, because the opposite of that is your one-off sleazy car salesman kind of marketers, where they're jumping out of a rented Lamborghini, talk about I made $20,000 this week. You can too. You got those guys. So I didn't want to be looped in with those guys. So I wanted to kind of separate myself by working in strategic networks and then giving them value. And with me giving them value, that spreads the word of mouth, and what I'm doing online to pretty much every client I have is through social media. So I never get to a point where I have to pitch somebody.
That's smart. That represents a strong brand, right?
Because if you heard of me, that means I've done my job correctly, because I don't use traditional advertising.
Yeah, something I echo through this podcast all the time is, when you're building something, whether it's your personal brand or a business, always lead with passion, because your audience or your customers, they will see that, and then it will lead to monetization after. Where if you lead with monetization, people are going to look at you completely different. And a lot of times, if you're leading with a money pitch, you're cutting corners to get there.
Well, the funny thing, and this is part of a conversation I'll have with individuals where they want to have a personal brand, but they don't understand the logistics of the mentality and what the expectations is on both sides. So I would say, okay, you want a personal brand or do you want sales? That's different. And it was like, well, I want sales and I want a personal brand. I want my personal brand that leads to sales. Okay, but please understand, building a brand is a slow build, slow burn process, okay? It's not that I put this amount of effort and I get this amount of ROI. That's not the way this works. Now, the local mechanic around the corner, if he double his sales this week, he's good. He don't care about branding, the message, the story, none of that. He may double his sales, he's good. However, the problem with his business model is that anyone else to give the customer a better deal, they're gone. I don't have any connectability with staying with you. A brand keeps retention. A commodity does not. There's a million people doing what you're doing, what I'm doing, what everybody is doing somewhere in the world, and they're probably better at it than what the fuck we're doing. Now, the thing is, what makes people stick with certain people is that they like them. People like doing business with people they like.
It's hard to build trust.
Right. So you got to lead with that connection and that relationship before getting into the business. Now, with the personal brand, you can do that. But a lot of people, they're not prepared. When people want to talk branding, they're really talking about sales. Nine out of 10, they're talking about sales. Because, like, listen, you sure you want to go down this road? Because for me, I spend money on all these videos, I had over 70 free meetings with people a year. Like anybody that felt like I could answer a question for them dealing with marketing from Instagram, I met with them for free, only knowing it from Instagram. 70 or 80 meetings for 2 years straight. Do a meeting with them, I give them free value, and I do a video. Hey, what you think? You know what I'm saying? What? Like, oh yeah, my guy Marcus, he knows what he's doing. So I got a testimonial out of it. They posted on their page, cross promotion. Now I met them in person. Now that's word of mouth added to that, and that snowballed to where people know me, where I don't necessarily have to give out a business card. Now, that's not what people want. People want that, but they want the quick version of that. And that's not reality. Because let me give you an example. So we're having these free meetings. I had a guy, he was like, hey man, I like what you're doing, whatever, we can meet. So I met with him, real cool guy. He was just like, yeah, I like what you're doing, whatever. I know this girl, she does this real estate thing. And she does it for a lot of realtors and things like that. And she's looking for somebody that knows about marketing. And I think you'll be a good fit. So give her a call. So I call her up and she was just like, oh, well, we already spent our budget on already coordinating the event. But if you want to come a la carte, pro bono, you can, and I'll, give you a speaking seat and things like that. For me, it's like, you're going to introduce me to hundreds of people that didn't even know who the fuck I was. I'm cool. I go. But for other people that's looking at the ROI right now, and they're like, oh, well, I mean, if you're not paying my rate, then, I don't want to do it. They get fishy with, doing things for free per se. Now, for me, I was like, all right, cool. I not only went down for free, but I actually was negative because I paid my videographer to come down. I paid my photographer to come down. I'm suited and booted, ready to go. This is all real estate professionals. I go in, I'm one of 3 people on the panel. One is like a national speaker for somebody. Another one is like the head of marketing for Signature Real Estate. And then it's the Instagram guy. So I'm sitting there, and I do my presentation, I talk or whatever, and then my camera guy is grabbing everything. And all it came out to a very good presentation. Got good content out of it. At the end of all of that, right when I sat down, the lady coordinated the event. She was like, oh, yeah, we have another one in another month or so. We want you to come to that one, too.
It's already paying out.
So she's already introduced me to new things. And now I speak of those every year. Hundreds of realtors that didn't even know who the fuck I am. Now I get an invite every year to do those.
And then you're more than just the Instagram guy.
Right. And then that first meeting that I had with that lady, that turned out to be somebody that hired me for my mortgage client. So I did paid ads and things like that for a mortgage lender. And one of the ladies that was helping her coordinate it was a branch manager for that division. And she knew me from that. And she was just like, hey, I already told my boss that, hey, we need you on the team. What's your rate? And we locked it in the contract, and that was my client right there.
That's awesome.
But it wasn't, I couldn't judge that in the beginning. Like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this, and that's gonna lead to that. I don't know.
You can't see those results. You can't see it. You can't put a price on it. It's branding. It sounds similar to the capitalist model, where the longer you hold out on something, the more exponential the return is down the road. Yeah. And in terms of branding, it's more social capital than it is monetary capital.
Yeah.
And when you have social capital, especially in Vegas, but now more so that everything's becoming borderless, and you can extend it out, and your profession more specifically is completely borderless. You could take that pretty much anywhere you want and apply that to anybody, and it becomes more of a word of mouth and sharing, and it just keeps playing over and over and over again.
Right. And the funny thing is like, I spend so much money on video. Like, I would have clients. Like, it's a really good friend now named Jared Clark. He owns a law firm right here off of West Sahara, a personal injury attorney. Really nice guy. And I knew him from another business client. And he was just like, hey, yeah, you're opening up your law firm. You need to talk to Marcus. Like, this is what happens all the time. You need to talk to Marcus. So I called him up, and he was like, yeah, I hear what you got, whatever. Let's come down to the office or whatever. So I'm kind of hearing him. I kind of look at his social media. I was like, hey, this seems like some good content. Let me bring my video guy down, bring my photographer down here, get some good content out of it, and then we can rap or whatever. I'm still not selling my services at this point. I'm just like, okay, I just want content because I know content is king. So I just like another opportunity to hear his story, how he got to where he is. Like that's value to other people. So I'm like, all right, cool. I get down there and we do the video segment, got some really good content out of it. And I ended up giving him a free video in order just to have, because we came down there and rapped or whatever. That's a video he still uses to this day for his Facebook page for advertising, and it's this guy in it.
Yeah, and you don't even have to pay for it.
I don't even like it. Now every time he plays that, I'm in the fucking video. So it's like, but people don't see it that way. But I guess, and also you got to be somewhat in a good financial position to do that. Not everybody is in a good financial position to be able to hold out. But I structured myself to be able to hold out because I knew that that's the value. Because if not, then you'll be sitting there trying to penny pinch on anything. Hey, I'll do your website. Oh, okay. What do you need? Let me. Like you're just sitting there overworking yourself for pennies, and then you'll look up like this is not even worth it.
I'm out. Count me out. I'm done.
So for me, I'm like, let me do less work with more notable people that helps me build my brand as well. So that's now my business model where I've worked with a lot of big different clients and a lot of projects. And the more I'm doing that and the more I understand, it's like, no, that's not it. Because I mean, I can hire employees and you can have a video guy doing this and you can have all these different people doing these different roles to get that job done. However, is that really what the fuck I want? No, because it's like, now you got to worry about overhead. And you got to do, no, I'm not even, like, I want to be a brand strategist to the most notable people in every fucking industry, yet and still, you don't even know how to fucking get to markets. Because I don't have a fucking business card. Like, I had to tell a Clark County commissioner, he asked me, hey, you got a business card? No, I don't do a business card. But he already knew who I was.
The funnel, right to the Instagram, right to the Instagram. In terms of branding, I wanted to get your opinion on this. Let's say you're somebody who has been doing this profession for a long time and you want to rebrand yourself.
Okay.
Something that I've been preaching literally since the start of this podcast is that 2020 is going to be the biggest opportunity to rebrand yourself in probably our lifetime. Everyone is sitting at home. You can basically come back out into society a year from now and be in a completely different position. What is the process to basically pivoting in a society where everything is captured on social media, and what is that process? Is it
so?
the same?
Let's say I'm doing a consulting call and I say, hey, like you say, you want to rebrand. The biggest thing I try to give people as far as the rebrand, especially a personal brand, I would say, okay, obviously we can have one category of topic or niche your business. Okay, whether it's highlighting the story behind it, the whole nine, okay, that's one aspect. But I like to have people pick 3 categories of what they want to speak about. So, but I want the other 2 categories to be relevant to you as the individual, personal. So if you're big into fitness or if you're a family person, that can be your 2 personal aspects and the business will be your 3rd. Now, with those 3 categories, put that somewhere in the bio where people can kind of understand and know what you're doing right away. And then from that, build content in those 3 categories, build that up. Make a video for each one and then figure out how you want to deliver that. If you're big on talking on camera, that may work for you. If you're not big on like talking to the camera, maybe more photo or maybe more just displaying them stuff outwardly, depending on how you want to set that up, but you got time to plan that out. Now, don't post. That's the important thing. Because if you're always in a situation where the moment you create it, you post it, the next day you're in the same position where like, okay, what the fuck I post? You finish your busy day, you comb through something on your phone, be like, oh, well, this look good, and throw it up. You're reactive, not proactive. This is a proactive game. So in order for you to be proactive, build in those 3 categories, build a surplus, not posting it, and then you can structure that out with like a scheduler, Hootsuite, Buffer, something like that, and you can plan that out for the whole month, and now you can focus on your business because that's already set, ready to go. So that's the best way to kind of create some infrastructure into your everyday life and build that up when you have time and structure it out. And then you got your hands free with what you want to do.
Genius. Do you think it takes away from the authenticity of not posting something immediately and it's not caught in the moment kind of sense?
I've tested this theory a number of different times, even with on my own personal account, is that it's still new until you post it.
Ha. Light bulb.
So you feel prompted like, oh, let me hurry up and get this out. This is fresh, blah, 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 blah. But like I got content from like 4 years ago that I can still use for fucking Disneyland. Like it's timeless until you post it. And even then, if I really want to, I just fucking delete it from the past post and repost it again. Fucking like, I don't care. Like, there's no rules to that in that sense. So like, I wouldn't feel pressure to post it right then, because just kind of looking at the overall big picture, it doesn't really matter. People are only really concerned about how that connects with them and what kind of value they can get out of it at that moment.
Have you ever felt a sense of imposter syndrome along your journey?
When I was first trying to work out my structure of like how I want my brand to look, because I started with the fitness, and when I shifted to kind of doing and consulting and things like that, then I was like, okay, well, maybe the fitness doesn't really work. Like, what I'm saying? I had to kind of figure out like what I wanted to do. So what I ended up doing is I created a whole separate Instagram for the fitness, kept that persona, because my Instagram name at first was MD Miller Fitness. That was my Instagram name. So I was like, well, MDM Fitness doesn't really work if I'm talking about marketing. So I got to figure out how to separate this. So I separated MDM Fitness to a separate page, and I did Marcus at Work branding on the new page. Therefore, I could still include some of the fitness stuff, but it's still more driven towards business, marketing. But the funny thing about marketing and business is that it's directly correlated with you and yourself. I used to think that I can separate business from my personal growth. You cannot. They're one and the same. It's a package deal, because as you grow to look at things differently, how you look at business will be different. How you look at relationships will be different. So they all kind of work together. So in order for me to work on my personal growth, I have to work on the business as well. So yeah, it's a sense where I had to kind of sort through that and figure out what that looks like in my own way. But that comes from trial and error. And that's what I like about not posting right away, is that you can work out that trial and error and not feel like you're on the spot. You record a couple of them. He's like, I don't like the way I look there. I mean, what's my eye doing here? Like he'll say, you could have time to plan that without being on the spot. Be like, okay, delete that. Okay, I'll keep this. I'll add some music to that one. Okay, like you have time to sort that out in a very comfortable space in order to get the presentation you want out.
I think you bring up an important point there. Literally, you rebranded, but you also went through a lot of trials and tribulations that many of us do when we want to basically start posting different things on our Instagram, and we're afraid of what our followers think. That's why you separated the account.
Yeah.
But then you had the epiphany, the light bulb moment that it has to be the same in order for you to progress. And whoever your following audience is, if they don't follow you, and this is something that I realized once I started the podcast, is if they don't follow you, you don't want them there anyway. So it's like, why are you trying to cater to these people who don't want to see you progress? And then you come to find out once you get down the road that you start building more of an engagement, more of a following, because they're on that journey with you.
Well, yeah, true. And what I noticed is that even digging further into that is that people, when you're building with an audience and they've kind of seen different stages of your life, yes, it's a common sense of you're a friend on social media that I want you to be well and doing good at whatever you do, because I'm investing into you as the person. That's an important part about making sure you're putting pieces of content that focus as you as the person, for them to have that opportunity to connect with you in that way. Now, that aspect is important. Now, with that, it's like, you got to figure out how you want to brand that, because a lot of people get to a situation, especially people that want to be viewed as professionals. What is too personal? Like, do I want to say stuff about the kids or no? Do I want to talk about any kind of upsets I have in life or no? Like, they tend to get too boxed in with the personal side. But what I have to have them remember is that this is social media. This isn't traditional advertising. So that being said is, I'm at a point with my audience where I would just be like out in the desert with a drone shot, just me, just like fucking like madman, fucking drinking a liquor bottle and say, fuck it. And not think twice about it. And that would not diminish my professional ability at all, or how they perceive me in the professional world, because they know on my social media, I'm always presenting myself as a real person. But that has to be built in over time. So when people, like I have this conversation with a lot of business professionals where they would say, okay, well, I want a professional account and then I want a personal account. I was like, okay, so what's going to be on your professional account? Oh, stuff about the business and stuff like that. So let me get this straight. You're making a professional account only about business? So you're making your Instagram page completely a way where I can just ignore it all the way together. Because here's the thing. Once again, nobody comes to social media to be sold. So if you make an account only about business that I don't really care about, I have no incentive to stick around. However, if you find a way to mix that in, they might not, like a realtor, they might not be using your services today, but they know they like you. They like the stuff you post. They like stuff with your kids. They tap in with you, little comments, happy Thanksgiving, little stuff like that. They might not be looking for a house right now. Oh, but their cousin just came into town and he's looking for somewhere to go. I know Jake. He's a good guy. I like him. He's a really good guy. Let me give you his number. And that happens to me all the time. Like, well, people, because they like you on social media, they start promoting for you. They are the promotion.
It's your best marketers.
That's your best marketer. Right to their network. So they're just like, hey, yeah, you need to, and that's typically how it works. So I'm not really a big fan of separating the two, because it just ends up being a spam account and the personal stuff. Now, I would blend it in, especially on social media, but you got to figure out what that comfort level is. Because if you make a piece of content and you are too vulnerable, it comes across ingenuine anyway. So that kind of works against you. So you want to be somewhere within your comfort level, which is why I never suggest to people do it this way. I would say, what are you comfortable with? Because that's going to be easier for you to create the content. It's going to be easier for the reception of people to be able to view that too in a way that feels natural and organic. So we got to kind of look at these aspects when we're creating content of how you want to tell your story, especially with your personal brand.
Makes complete sense, because if you post something that's too intimate, too vulnerable, there's no going back from it once they see it.
Well, yeah, but I'm kind of a savage in that way, because I don't give a fuck. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't like, and I understand everybody's comfort level isn't there, but like literally like September of 2019, I ended up it was the month I lost my younger brother and my father-in-law in the same day. And I did a video on that. And I explained it, whatever. And with my stories, I actually took them with me to the fucking funeral home. We looking at plots, and they see my face, and they just like, yo, like drain. Like, I took them through that whole experience. I got so many comments, so many DMs, just like, oh yeah, if you need anything, let me know. I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. Investment into you and your well-being. And with that, a lot of people like, yo, I can't do that. Like, that's too personal for me. But like, I'm so out there like that. But even my next video, I think after that, where I was in the desert and I was still trying to sort it out or whatever. And I told them, I was like, listen, I haven't told my daughters yet. I don't know how they're going to respond. They already know about their father-in-law, whatever. So, I'm still trying to figure out. It's funny because the spot I picked for the video, it had mayhem written in the background. It's like perfect symmetry with that. And my next scene was like me out in the middle of an open desert. And it had the drone footage, and I'm just walking, and I got like a liquor bottle in the middle of the fucking heat, just like, fuck it. Like, and like, I was like, creatively, I was just like, I'm just expressing myself, but like, people really fuck with that.
Because they're invested in you. That hit me actually pretty deep. I didn't even realize that now they're invested in your emotional integrity.
Yeah, because if you lead with that, it don't make a difference if you're selling cars today or you're fucking selling videotapes tomorrow. They want you to do well in whatever you're doing. Wow. It's the easiest way to transfer over a personal brand.
I like that. I'm definitely gonna have to look more deeply into that after this conversation. That was intense. Outside of Instagram, do you think there is any sort of importance to things like Twitter or LinkedIn or TikTok?
I mean, I'm a fan of LinkedIn in a professional world. Obviously, my only issue with LinkedIn professionally is that there are notorious spammers on LinkedIn. Like, I'll like add somebody to my network and like, excuse me, like instantly I'll get another fucking message like, hey, so I'm your local SEO expert in the area.
Yeah, they attach it to the connection.
Either to the connection or like right after you accept it, it'll go right to your inbox. Like, I don't even check them no more. Like, it's just so bad. I mean, like, everybody, and it's like a common trend where like they'll just go, oh, offering services. I'm like, yo, no, I'm good. Like, you just instantly turn it off. So like, that's my only issue with LinkedIn. Now, as far as like posting content and interacting with professionals, totally. Their ad structure, you got to spend some real money on there in order to see any kind of results on LinkedIn. They're like right under Google with the amount of the money you have to spend in order to see any results. Google's the worst. Yeah, they're worse. And they'll flag your stuff like in a hot second. Like, they don't like what they call shocking content. Like, you'll make a video, shocking content. Like, it's literally you with your niece at a birthday party and they saying shocking content.
Yeah, they've been caught censoring certain words like around once the COVID pandemic started. Anything that was COVID.
Words, anything that had COVID in it, any words, even if you capitalize things a certain way, if the colors are a little too bright or so, like, they got so many restrictions. It's ridiculous. So I'm like, man, and not only that, they're the most expensive too. So it's like, yeah, I'm mess with these guys. So like, their YouTube ad structure, I mean, I like that, but my only problem with even the YouTube promotion is that like, they don't count it as earned view. They don't count it as a watch view. So like, you'll run a video through their network and it'll be like, oh yeah, you got 400 watch hours. Those 400 watch hours won't count towards your total watch hour.
It's a separate category.
It's a separate category. Yeah. So they basically don't, if you promote it, they don't accept that as a watch time that's countable for you to get monetized.
Yeah, the only thing to gain from that is hopefully some conversions.
Yeah, some conversions. And they'll count, if they went to that video that you promoted and they clicked on that and then clicked on a different one, they'll count the watch time on the second one, not the one you promoted. So that kind of fucking sucks, because it's like, yo, I'm paying for your network. Why wouldn't I don't know. Like, that kind of irritates me. But yeah, so the YouTube structure is okay. Facebook ads is probably the best. Instagram ads, I fucking hate. I fucking hate Instagram ads. They're terrible. Not even hate seeing them. I hate running them. They don't work. Not good. You think it's the same company, it should work the same. It does not at all.
But it sounds like Instagram has the best bang for your buck in terms of reach and influence and branding, more specifically.
If you know the tricks of the trade, you can definitely do some damage. Like on a post I put up before this last one, I did my analytics, and like, I don't look at just the views, the comments, or whatever's on it, but I open up the analytics. It says 123,000 viewed from Explorer, and 120 view from home, and another 120 from profile. That lets me know it's pushing through the algorithms, which is what I want.
Boom. Be the best friend is the algorithm, as a lot of people like to say.
Learn the algorithm game. That's what all the professionals do. The algorithm game. Yeah.
Well, Marcus, this was an incredibly insightful conversation. I have to say, learned a ton about branding. Definitely gonna have to look a little bit more inward to understand things, but that's why we have these conversations, right? To learn from each other and to spread your message. I have one parting question on the way out. Same question I asked to everybody. Okay. It's what does Las Vegas mean to you?
Las Vegas is opportunity. When I moved here to Vegas, I was working overnight stock at Walmart. I was like, I could do this shit anywhere. So, a friend invited me out here. I was like, all right, cool. Like, I didn't visit Vegas. I came with everything I own right then. All my family is mostly still back home. And when I came, I've never looked back. the whole time I've been here. Now it started rough. I got to learn the city, I had to get a job and figure out what's going on. But it was just so many more opportunities out here, you know, because think about it. I mean, you had back then it was like 2005. Like the guy fixing slot machines at Caesar makes $50,000 a year. Like we're in a traditional city, that's fucking unheard of. Okay, like you got to go to college, you got to find education, to get
entry level bachelor's degree job.
Right. In order to get that, you got to be a CPA or some shit. You making $50,000 fixing slot machines. It's just like, what the fuck? Like so you got people in their 20s hopping out of fucking Lamborghinis. Like, what the fuck is going on over here? So Las Vegas for me has always been opportunity.
Boom. Where can all of the listeners learn more about you and SM Consulting and Branding?
On Facebook, it's SM Consulting and Branding. My personal page is Marcus Miller. You see a picture of this face. LinkedIn is Marcus Miller as well. Instagram is Marcus at Work. Typically, that branches out to the rest of the platforms as well.
Boom. Thank you, Marcus, for coming on and having this conversation. I'm glad that we could finally connect after being followers for a little while and bestow each other's intelligence and knowledge on each other.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being here. I've been watching the podcast ever since Alex, and I was just like, man, he interviewing a lot of people, man. Hold on. I need to get on there. What's he doing?
I have the same exact, even being born and raised out here, I have the same exact mindset as you, is that this city has so much opportunity, and what comes with opportunity is entrepreneurs. And why not highlight what this city does best and builds entrepreneurs and builds brands and businesses? And so as you find a lot of opportunity for branding, I find a lot of opportunity in entrepreneurs of like-minded to talk with. So thank you for that. And thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you next time.